This show is brought to you by Beco Dairy Automation. You have tuned in to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. We call it the Dairyman's source for new ideas, information, and technology, mixed with a double dose of current market conditions. The what, the why, and the how things influence the amount of money dairy producers receive for their daily milk deliveries. We offer this daily News Hour magazine as a catalyst to make long-term dairy producers sustainable. We invite every dairy producer in America to get their daily dose of what can be done and what they can do to achieve and maintain profitability on their farms. $22 for 36 months is our goal. We advocate there is a way forward. We invite dairy producers to come listen, to learn, and to participate. This is a no complaint zone. We talk solutions. So get out your pen and paper. Here is your host of the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, Tom Van Nortwick, owner of Agribusiness Publications, publisher and editor of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine.
Good morning, everyone. As introduced, my name is Tom Van Nortwick with Agribusiness Publications. This is the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. It's Thursday, March the 3rd, 2016. The days and weeks just march on, and never enough time to get enough done. But we'll continue this effort this morning. A lot of news in the markets this morning for us to review, and we'll be doing that. We'll be joining Ron O'Brien, as Stuart indicates in our intro in the morning, a double dose of the markets. And the reason why is because it's important that dairy producers understand that all that happens that's any good in this dairy business, aside from the fantastic milk and milk products that come from all that you do, and you do a great job and you should be congratulated. We can't say that often enough, but in the end, it's the pay price of milk that is so critical. In the news this morning, some processors report slowing cheese production and turning away loads of milk as monthly supply agreements end. Second, as churn operations throttle back on spot cream purchases, the week-to-week gains in inventories are less pronounced. Next one, although cream is readily available, there may be less demand for cream to enter the churn. January dairy products production report is to be released at 3 p.m. today. We'll probably cover that tomorrow. There's an article that touches on the aftermath of the storm Goliath in the High Plains area of the United States. It's the impacts of the 215 blizzard are in an article today.
For the best donuts and kolaches, come visit one of our 6 award-winning locations.
And that's just special. We got to get rid of all these.
In both Lubbock and Levelland, open 7 days a week. Our friendly team will get your day started.
How in the world do I learn? I got to learn how to stop those pop-ups from being a problem vocally. There it is. A lot of these ads, these articles, and they're great when you're looking at them online, but they have a pop-up which it throws some commercials at you as well. But I'm just going to touch on the aftermath of the blizzard here just quickly while we're waiting for Ron O'Brien to come up. We'll be joining Ron O'Brien, who is the Senior Global Strategist for Interfoods, and he provides for us a window, a door even, to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the buying and selling of blocks and barrels cheese, powder, and butter, and we'll be joining that shortly. But in the news, the blizzard of 2015 did some major damage to dairy farms across the South Plains and the Panhandle. The executive director of the Texas Association of Dairymen called these sudden, massive loss of animals. Some estimate that tens of thousands of cows were killed in the blizzard. At the estimates, by now, guys, come on, could somebody have counted them? I would think, why do we just have these estimates of tens of thousands of cows were killed? How many? Somebody should have counted. Okay, at the annual High Plains Dairy Conference, which took place at the Overton Hotel in Lubbock, I've been to that dairy conference, and it's a great part of the country. From March 1 and 2, over 280 dairy producers attended to talk about the key issues of their industry. One of the main themes was reflecting on the Blizzard Goliath that came in December of 2015. Statewide production is still down a little bit, and that's because we had the counties all through Lubbock and Muleshoe, and on up to Hereford were hit very, very hard, explained Ellen Jordan, the statewide dairy specialist for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. We have 8 of our top 10 dairy counties here in the Panhandle. So when milk production is down in this area, it does mean that we have a lower production statewide. Jordan said Goliath was possibly the most damaging weather event she's seen in her 25 years of working with dairy farmers all around Texas. She believes it will take years for dairy farmers to overcome the setbacks caused by the loss of cattle and milk production during the blizzard. Muleshoe Dairy Farm manager Cody Kirby agreed. Some cows have just dried off and quit milking after the storm, and so financially, it's years to recoup from that storm. Hopefully in milk yield, maybe a year to recover, Kirby said. Kirby explained that Goliath is an unusual event for High Plains dairy farmers who usually enjoy ideal dairy farming conditions. We've been here a long time with our dairy, and we're here because typically we have really nice weather. We don't have a lot of humidity here, so it's good for cows. It's good for us, said dairy farmer Alden Smith of Clovis, New Mexico, who also attended the High Plains Conference. Smith lost some cows in the blizzard. He also said his farm's milk production was impacted by the storm. He started preparing for the storm a week in advance, but still found that his dairy milkers were unable to get the farm to work because of the blizzard. Really, our concern was to make sure our employees were safe and they didn't get on the roads before they had to, Smith explained. We did what we could to keep our cows as comfortable as we could, keep them fed, and get back to the normal operations as quickly as we could. Smith called the blizzard a learning experience, and he said that he now recommends that dairy managers coordinate safety, food, and shelter for employees ahead of time before major weather events. But outside of employee preparations, he's not sure how much more he could have done to prepare for such a massive weather event. I don't think there was anything we could have planned on in that weather event, said Kirby, echoing Smith's comments. We could have had cattle inside and still been affected by the storm. It's a once-in-a-100-year storm. I want the people to know that we worked hard. Our employees worked hard. Yeah, I said, we had some loss on our farms, but we also saved a lot of cattle and were able to keep milking a lot of cattle and kept them warm and put bedding out and fed them as soon as possible. Kirby, who oversees around 9,000 cows, shared his experience from the blizzard with the other conference attendees in hopes of better preparing them for the next unexpected weather event on the High Plains. Preparedness is the biggest thing. When they start talking about the storm 2 weeks in advance and they name the storm, you need to start preparing. Yeah, I guess if they name it, you better look out. You need to start preparing with housing for workers, food, and just having a plan in place to make sure you have enough help to get through the storm, Kirby said. Wow. So we just don't know. We weren't there. The
right direction. Time to ride.
That darn thing. But it's very important that everyone learn from that. So if you get some time, check out that news article. So there's our quick run through the news this morning. Our cover story this morning is going to be all about why are we receiving and why do we have to get paid global prices for domestic production used for domestic consumption. We didn't see a demand fall here in the United States of milk, powder, butter, and fluid, of course. Nope. If anything, because of price, we're probably seeing more people buy more dairy. Lower prices going to probably evoke an improved consumption rate here in America. And so, but guess what? Everybody's getting paid. You're getting paid the global price. The global influencers are bringing the price of all milk down to levels that are not sustainable if you're a dairy producer, below cost of production. So that's our cover story that we'll focus on today. We'll be joining Ron O'Brien, Senior Global Strategist for Interfoods for the Blocks and Barrels trades. So everyone hang on, and we'll be back in time for those trades, and then continue on through the CME trades right through the end at butter at 5 minutes after the hour, and then covering our cover story today, unhinging. Let's unhinge the price you get paid for domestic consumption from global. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. This is the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour Magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
So we got 78 even to settle. Wonderful. One offered at 79 even by Ash. Yeah, not too bad. Today's my Friday.
As you can tell as we do this, there's always going to be some overlap. That we're multitasking. You're hearing several things at one time. You can handle that. It's if we could make it better, we would. But they're doing what they're doing, and we're doing what we're doing.
75 bid on one Krebs. 79.
Hang on and listen up.
All right, 10 seconds to call. Someone else on the call? First call? Second? Third and final call? Right, so nothing doing, just those two bid offers on either side, so we're staying the same settle, 78.
Okay, non-fat holds at 78 cents this morning. No offers, no trades. And then we'll come back for butter trades at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange at 5 minutes after the hour. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Eva Strang, Education Coordinator for the Allied Milk Producers. Cereal and milk have always been a mainstay for breakfast, at least since 1882. That's when the first commercially manufactured cereal was made by Henry Perky. It was called shredded wheat, and it's still with us today as one of the most popular cereals. Remember, breakfast is probably the most important meal of the day, and a good breakfast includes nutritious dairy foods like milk on cereal. A good way to start the day.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
Okay, welcome back. You are listening to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. The focus of our cover story for this day is we need to continue to talk about, we really haven't done it much, but a big, I think, disparity in the marketplace is what U.S. dairy producers receive as a pay price for the domestic production and domestic consumption of milk here in America. Right now, unfortunately, pricing in America is tied to the continual decline in global pricing around the world. Global pricing being disadvantaged by a higher than normal production of milk relative to profitable demand in the market. We have that same problem here domestically, and let me tell you how I know this, because all we have to do is look at the articles of the day this morning to know that we've got a problem with milk. This is from out of Madison, Wisconsin. This is the report on Midwest cheese. With milk readily available, many cheese manufacturers report milk supplies for processing to be well balanced. But as on-farm milk production increases through the spring, manufacturers are starting to face an oversupply. Some processors starting to face is that are they? This is always deceptive, in my opinion. Are they currently turning away milk? Because they say some processors report slowing cheese production and turning away loads of milk as monthly supply agreements end. At the same time, a few other plant managers are encouraged to keep the vats full in order to meet the solid retail demand. Processors say domestic consumer demand has not subsided much after the winter holidays and Super Bowl. Although cheese sold through cut and wrap and food service markets is moving, there is still some concern about the long inventories of cheese blocks. And we talk about that all the time, and barrels growing further. The DMN National Retail Report Dairy shows that February 26th through March 3rd, Midwest ads for 8-ounce shredded cheese. And they just go through the pricing mechanism there, what little 8-ounce bags of cheese are selling for. Here's the central region. Churning is steady to slower. Some manufacturers indicate that they are not buying cream volumes outside of contracts. As the market shows weaker prices, manufacturers are focusing on balancing current production and upcoming sales commitments. Sales related to the upcoming spring holidays are picking up. Retailers planning advertising features ahead of the holidays want to make, and of course we're talking about Easter, we're talking about Memorial Day, we're talking about, of course, the kickoff for summer. And these, what retailers are shooting for, hoping, and we all do. I mean, you know what Easter dinner's like at your house. I know what it's like at my house and for my family. It's a big deal, and all that whole week or couple weeks surrounding it. Then we've got spring break, and the kids are out and about, and so a lot of things change. Butter inventories are steady to building, but as churn operators throttle back on spot cream purchases, the week-to-week gains in inventories are less pronounced. Okay, so we've looked at the Midwest and the Upper Midwest. Although cream is readily available, there may be less demand for cream to enter the churn, is another USDA. This is West Butter, again out of Madison. Industry contacts note the butter market may be softening somewhat, although cream is readily available. There may be less demand for cream to enter the churn. Western manufacturers are still actively producing butter and are committed on current agreements. However, some say the domestic demand for butter has subsided a little as the spring holiday orders get filled. Much of the seasonal holiday buying is done or nearing completion. Some butter makers are shifting more of their production toward bulk butter than retail. Excuse me. As a result, butter inventories are seasonally building. Okay, and then it goes into pricing. I bought butter last night for under $3 a pound retail. So that was interesting as I saw it. And that's the first time in a while that's happened. January dairy products production report. We're not worried about that. Some cows now we'll look at the New Mexico, Texas issue at another time. But an article: some cows have dried off and quit milking after that storm, and so financially it's years to recoup from that storm. Yeah, I bet you they've got cows they're putting back into production, but it's a devastating thing. I don't mean to minimize it. But replacements are readily available, and the price for them is a touch lower than it had been in the recent past. Here's a cool, just an interesting, didn't see that coming. Record low cheese price helps Domino's Pizza see a 17.8% rise in pre-tax profits last year. Well, see, somebody gets some benefit. Dairy producers go broke, but Domino's, they didn't have to pay so much for cheese, did they? And the thing is that demand didn't change, but the price for all of this went down. And dairy producers got less. Everybody else does better when dairy producers are getting below market prices, because it's all tied to global. Okay? Still waiting on butter this morning. Let's see, what time is it? It's just now about time. Growing EU. Okay, here's an again how we're tied to global. Okay, some cheer for dairy sector. Now this is an article out of, where is this? It's overseas somewhere.
All right, we've got 50 seconds here before butter. 198 even settle.
You're listening to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. We're tied in to Ron O'Brien's daily conference call for listening in at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. We've come around to the butter trades here on Thursday morning, March the 3rd, 2016. Hang tight. The trades will begin in a moment. We'll listen in and then be back after the close of butter.
Move over, Manny, Mo, and Jack. For quick, convenient auto service and no appointment needed, ask for G Express service from Gorpetti Automotive in Visalia. We'll guarantee an oil and filter change in as little as 39 minutes. And there's more. Need your tires rotated? A brake job? Even a 15,000-mile service? There's no appointment necessary, and we'll guarantee your service time. G Express. It's a new level of convenience you'll only find at Gorpetti Automotive.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
All right. right. Thank you, Ron, for our trip to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange here on Thursday morning, the 3rd of March. And a little bit of activity in butter this morning. Butter rising, it looked like to 203. We were moving things around and moving on at that particular moment, so I didn't catch the last number, but it did come up 201, 202, 203, somewhere right in there. We'll find out a little bit later, hopefully, in the broadcast. The cover story this morning, what about the milk produced in America, consumed in America? What about that milk requires dairy producers to be paid global prices for that milk? Okay, we haven't seen a demand reduction domestically, and yet dairy producers are paid. The global influencers, we call them, have a tremendous impact on what dairy producers get paid here in the United States for 86 to 92% of their total milk production that is consumed here inside this country. We export between 8 and 16% of our domestic production in the form of butter and powder. There's probably some cheese as well. Not probably. There is cheese that is sold outside the country to the global markets. And people love the products produced by American producers. They pay for the quality. They've been paying a higher price for it all through 15, and now into 16, and maybe even back into parts of 14, where 13, where prices were higher. Global markets and global producers outside of the United States have been receiving lower prices, significantly lower prices, for a much longer period of time than have domestic producers inside the United States. So they're very frustrated, and of course, then you get a little bounce, and this is how it's reported. You get a bounce yesterday. Okay, the bounce was 1.4% in the global dairy trade auction. This thing happens every 2 weeks, and the two times it happened in February, milk pricing went down about 14%. Combined during that period of time, give or take. And now it comes up in one day, it rises 10%, 1.4. Overall prices lifted 1.4% in this week's Global Dairy Trade. This is an article, provided to dairy producers, and we see it. It gets sent to us, too. And some cheer for dairy sector, it says. And we don't want to be pessimistic, but come on, please. Okay, with whole milk powder prices up 5.5%. Well, powder is so low, although it remained about 13% lower than at the end of 2015. So we've gone down that 14%, give or take, since the first of the year. Casing recorded the largest increase, and if you knew what casing was, we wouldn't, up 14.9%, while skim milk powder rose a more modest 1.3%. While any improvement, they say, in prices would be welcomed, there remained few signs of a marked turnaround in the fundamentals which had pushed prices to such low levels. Westpac senior economist Anne Boniface said global milk supply remained plentiful, with supply from Europe continuing to grow particularly strongly. She wrote a little bit like I do. Particularly strongly? She needs, like I do, we need editors. They're important people. Anyway, to grow. And that supply backdrop was likely to continue to keep prices under pressure for some time. Eventually, low prices would induce a supply response. And we saw that. Okay, now here's a supply response. It's important that you get this point, okay? There was a supply response. Okay, prices... Prices are slow low. They're half of what they were in 14. Half. And last month, China came in and had their biggest single month's purchase of dairy products in the marketplace. But guess what they paid for it? Did they pay profitable prices for dairy producers globally, domestically? No. They got it at half price. They got all they wanted last month in February, the largest block of purchases from China in a year or more, and they got it at half price. Them Chinese is pretty smart, aren't they? And guess what? We sold it to them. Because, we're going to sell. If it wasn't nailed down, we'd sell the whole country. But it's all for sale. You pay the right price, or if we need the money bad enough, we'll take whatever you'll give us. That's kind of our attitude. Okay? And so European producers are just going crazy. They just got let out of jail last spring from quotas, and they've just been on a drunken stupor in production ever since. Okay, growing European stockpiles, they call it, still had to find their way onto markets. Okay, so the stockpiles are still there, and they're not anywhere in close to being sold yet. And so there's this buildup. So even if China came in and if they bought it all and then stopped buying, we'd be right back where we started, because we got production at such a high rate that we would simply then begin at the same low prices to resupply the stockpiles. But guess what? China didn't buy it all. ASB, rural economist Nathan Penny said this week's price lift followed better sentiment across markets generally. The seasonal decline in New Zealand production was also beginning to support dairy prices. The main impetus for the price lift was expected to come via tighter New Zealand and, to a lesser degree, Australian supply. Oh my gosh, those poor farmers. Their price went up for 1.4%. 1.4%, which is 10% of what it went down the previous month. Elevator down, you take the stairs coming back, and you got to clear the debris. The supply, you got to clear the supply and the debris out of the stairwell before you can climb back up the stairs. Can you see that? All of that cheese and butter stacked in the stairwell, and you got to climb back up. You took the elevator down, but you got to climb back up the stairs, and all of the accumulated supply is stacked in the stairwell, and you got to clear it to get back up the stairs. While low dairy prices, the article concludes, meant pressure was likely to remain on dairy farmers over the coming year. Okay, get that, guys? There's an important word there. You're starting to see, they're starting to actually tell you the ugly truth. It's been slow to come, but they're finally getting it out. Likely to remain on dairy farmers over the coming year, with some likely to turn to stock liquidation as a temporary way of supporting cash flow. Ms. Boniface believed it was unlikely there would be a similar-sized bounce in dairy cow culling this season. Okay. Because if you wait, guys, if you do nothing, and that's really where we are, there's no plan. There's no plan being offered. There's no plan being implemented. There's no plan being embraced. And so consequently, we're going to do what we've always done, which is we sit and continue to wait while for demand to return. And demand is not going to return. It's not coming back. China's going to do what China's going to do. And I guarantee you there's enough political unrest that China could end up doing nothing. I mean, was that our Secretary of Defense warned China about military concerns in the China Sea? Don't be strutting your stuff in the China Sea. I mean, our State Department, I think it was the State Department, somebody gave them a warning yesterday. Now, when you do things like that don't exactly engender great relations and more trade. And so, but I guarantee you, if they want it and they've got dollars, and they're going to come to the markets and they're going to pick it up at half price or lower. No telling what it sold for. No telling how much they took. I mean, we kind of know that it was a big increase, 164% of, I saw the numbers last week. And so it was a big deal, and it's important. But is it going to be sustained? Not likely. they'll come in, and that's that supply response. We've got oversupply, low prices, and what they're saying is, okay, if these prices get lower, then and that's the way the economics of things work. The cheaper it is, eventually it comes to a price point where everybody's willing to buy. It's so cheap, you can't pass it up. After all, these are stored items. You could store them for a rainy day for a while. Dry powder, if stored properly, almost indefinitely. Butter and cheese, it's a little different story, but still a long time in the markets, year or more, at least. And of course, they're trying to do that with fluid, with ultra high temperature. You just put it through the process, put it on the shelf. You don't have to chill it, and it lasts forever. So all these things, and we bring these up because this has an impact on current demand for fluid milk. All of it has an impact. And so we've got processors doing all they can to keep their maximum capacity in place. I mean, they want maximum efficiency, so they're processing as much milk as fast as they can. And why not? It's so darn cheap. The dairy producers are bringing it in, and they continue to produce it and deliver it at their cost, at below cost of production numbers. Unbelievable. And so the best part about what we talk about on a regular basis is there is a way forward. And I think eventually finding a way to unhinge domestic production for domestic consumption, unhinge that and excess milk produced inside the United States from global. And actually, the recommendation that I received from a dairy producer, it's a good recommendation, is you create a Class 5. You create a Class 5 milk, which is excess milk for global. And it's separated, it's processed, and it's open and available to the global market. We'll sell it for as much as we can get for it at that, as soon as we can, and you get paid the global price. But we do not let the glut of milk globally impact the price paid to American dairy producers who are producing for and having their products utilized within the domestic market, U.S. Now, some people say, well, that's not possible. Well, no, it is possible. The other thing you've got to do is I think you've got to be very, very careful. And the producer sector has to become a lot more involved with who's importing what and what is it being used for, how's it being utilized, where's it at, where'd it come from. And I don't think the American consumer is going to be overwhelmed with the conditions under which some of that material might be produced, processed, handled, and brought to the United States. And, in fact, why should your milk buyers be importing butterfat because it's just plain cheaper is why they do it, of course, but why should they be importing butterfat when you've got plenty of butterfat? We don't have a butterfat shortage in the United States. We got plenty. But last year they imported more butterfat than we exported. The very people who buy your milk, why did they do it? Why? Because it was just plain cheaper, half price. In some cases, half price. And because they have been in a recession, a dairy recession, far longer than have the dairy producers here in the United States. We'll return and in just a moment, but this focus on our cover story is a real long-term problem that is going to take some serious discussion and involvement by dairy producers and a collaboration between dairy producers and everybody else in the industry, because you're the only one taking the hit. Okay, the value, you're the one with the margin protection insurance for crying out loud. Nobody else had to buy it. Nobody else. It was even suggested that margin protection insurance be available for the co-op, for the processor, for the manufacturer, for the retailer. No, they all get to name their margins. They'll process it. They'll calculate what it costs them, and of course, right now their number one cost of production is half of what it was in 2014. And so, guess what? Profits are up everywhere. even for our friends at Domino's Pizza. Why? Because cheese is lower, and thank goodness it is. It's a blessing to them. And of course, as the price of cheese falls, it will actually spur more consumption. Okay, so stay tuned. We'll return for some analysis at the very end here, but stay tuned for these messages.
As dairy farmers watch profits slip away and a wonderful way of life painfully comes to an end for future generations, Dairy Pricing Association sees a brighter future simply by having a solution. These dairy pricing farmer members in 10 states and growing have figured out a way. Government handouts are not the answer. It's time for farmers to take matters in their own hands. Dairy Pricing Association is asking for farmers to contribute 10 cents per hundredweight to buy surplus dairy products to create a floor price, as well as helping relieve hunger in America. This is a win-win. As dairy farmers, we watch markets fluctuate as much as $4 per hundredweight in 1 month's time. 10 cents is nothing. Imagine being able to curb another 2009 scenario simply by controlling the floor price that you need as a dairy farmer to stay in business. With the dairy products that you as a dairy pricing member purchase, thousands of people are fed. No government assistance is needed. Rather, simply you as a dairy farmer are helping yourself by helping others. For more information, visit online dairypricing.org.
Are you restricting the profitability of your dairy herd? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166. Check our website at becoknows.com.
The announcement you just heard further pushes along your becoming aware of dairy pricing. And dairy pricing is a producer-led, producer-originated, that is, dairy producer-originated organization out of Wisconsin. And right now, in my opinion, although I love all the producers, I really do in Wisconsin. I never met somebody that I didn't like so far. But this 4% or more production increase in milk in Wisconsin is just wrong, and you guys need to wake up and stop it. And the reason why is because you're killing your dairymen with that mentality. You can say what you want and do what you want, of course, but you're killing producers. You're not helping anything. And those, your numbers are dwindling just like they are here in California and across the country. More than 1,500 producers a year we've averaged lost to the industry, not because they wanted to leave, but because it makes no economic sense to stay. It doesn't right now. Is there anybody that's going, oh yeah, let's just stick around, this is fun, I want some more of this? And so what I believe one of the very best things that comes out of Wisconsin, besides they make great cheese, your fluid milk, we won't talk about that right now. We need to fortify milk in America, all of it. Give it to the consumer the way it was meant to be delivered, cold, better tasting, and more nutritious. Okay, but dairy pricing. Producers came together and said there's a better way. Now, how do we get it done? Well, Capper-Volstead Act of 1922 provides the tools, and it's not a hammer and a crescent wrench. These are real tools for the right job at the right time. And it affords dairy producers the opportunity to become a market force in this industry by determining what they want to be paid for their milk, and then taking full responsibility for their total milk production all the way from beginning to end through the markets, through the manufacturing process, the cooperative process, delivery, from start to finish. And being responsible. If you overproduce and there's too much inventory, then you've got to be responsible, because your your manufacturers and retailers, you have to give them something. If you're going to get your price, then you have to give them their price. And your price, $19 minimum. 22 would be better. We have a goal of 22 for 36. And that's what we're going to help you do. We're going to find a way to get dairy producers to stand up and say, we're going to go 36 months in a row at $22 a hundredweight. How do you do that? Well, you take full responsibility, market responsive milk production on the farm, and then you use your money to buy excess out of the market and donate it to Feeding America and other food for hungry Americans and organizations that support them in this country. The sad part is there's 49 to 65 million people who are underserved or not served at all. A serving of dairy of some sort today. No milk, no butter, no cheese, no ice cream. Can you imagine? No ice cream. But worse than that would be no milk. I can't even imagine. I'm a big milk drinker. Always have been. My mom, I had 5 sisters. And the economic conditions in our home, I now know, based on, I have my dad's old bank book. And his take home was about $192 a week in those days. We lived out in the country, and we had a nice home. We always had a garden and trees and food, and we were raising the calf for slaughter, and we had a milk cow, and I milked, and we were pretty self-reliant. But going to school every day, we took our lunch. And sometimes they were a little meager, those lunch sacks. They're a brown paper sack. I didn't have a lunch pail. I had a brown paper sack. But you know what Mom did? Is that because I loved milk. I just loved it. And, of course, the milk came in cartons, kind of tall cartons. They must have been 8 ounces, But and it cost a nickel. It took a nickel to buy that milk. And guess what? She gave me 2 nickels. My 5 sisters, I don't know if they've ever known that, but I got 2 nickels. And maybe they got 2. I don't know, but they didn't like milk like I liked milk so much. I mean, they drank it, but, man, I wanted more. And so I'll have to tell you the ice cream story sometime about me and my dad and ice cream. But that milk, those 2 nickels, big deal to me. And so, but it was whole milk in those days. They didn't give us that crap in, a dirty glass. I call it dirty glass. 1%, 2% dirty glass. And we're finding out, guess what? That's not the best thing for our kids. It's not the best thing for our parents and grandparents. More nutrition, better tasting is what we need to do in this country. And dairy pricing is currently involved. Go to www.dairypricing.org, and you need to read and understand what it is Robin Berg and the board of directors of Dairy Pricing have and are offering as a way forward for dairy producers. We blogged an item last night or this morning about, we've got a plan. There's no other plan, and so I offered to, guess what? In light of no plan, here's a plan, and it's a better plan than standing here and waiting for demand to return. And what's worse is demand could come back, but inventories are so high and will continue to rise over this year because nobody's got a plan. They're going to continue to stockpile these inventories. So even if someone comes back into the market like they did in 2010, 11, 12, and 13, where we had double-digit growth in global demand for your milk and milk products in America, it took 4 years. It took 4 stinking years for strong profitability to return to the marketplace 4 years from now. Can everybody say 2020? That's 4 years from now. We'll be electing another president or, re-electing the 2016 candidate. That's too long. That's too much loss. That's just a dumb plan. And there's no reason to settle for that plan when we have an alternate plan, which is so easy to implement and so beneficial to the industry long term. And so we advocate that you follow this plan. It's easy to do. We could have. I think you could have market impact almost immediately. And You just got to stand up and say, we're not going to take this no more. And dairy producers clear around the world, you've got to be market responsive with your milk production. You got to stop producing too much milk. That's just a stupid plan. And to think it doesn't matter, it does matter. It matters big time, because for your little 3, 4, 5%, 8%, Wisconsin 4%, your 4% overproduction is contributing to a 50% loss in the other 96% of your total production. That just doesn't make sense. Your 4% growth in milk every month, year in and year out, is killing everybody. It's not just you. Don't worry. You're not the only culprits. But I'm picking on you because, you know what? You're the one that's been standing up and saying, you know what? We're going to make more milk. No, you need to grow the market at the same time. You've got to increase utilization. Fortification of your fluid milk would improve utilization of solids. And you'd give a better tasting, more nutritious product to the consumer, which they deserve, number one. They're paying for, number two, and you're not delivering it, number three. I think somebody should ask you why and demand an answer and a resolution. You want to go there? We're going to go there. Because, you know what, you got to start working together. You either come in and join the plan, or we're going to have a discussion as to how come you're shorting the market on nutrition and taste. And you're doing it conscientiously with purpose and resolve when you could do it different, but you don't, and it's all about the money. It's all about the money to you. So let's ask the question, why would you short little kids more nutrition, better taste for more money? When the cow gives the good milk, she's already delivering it to you as it should be delivered to the consumer. And you're not giving it to the consumer the way the cow gave it to you. It's that simple. Can you all understand that? And that needs to be changed. We also need to solve this stupid problem of hunger in America. You're just wrong in allowing this to continue when you have the ability to resolve it. And farming and the farm sector could have a huge impact on that. You guys all want this stuff sold, and you all want to be paid for it, and I understand it, and you should be. You should receive a fair price, a profitable price for it. But not if you're not willing to stand up and do what it takes to receive it and take full responsibility, total responsibility for your milk production and what happens to it from start to finish. You think it's okay just to produce it, send it off in the truck, and let somebody else deal with it. That mentality's killing us. More than 80,000 dairy producers. I got it. I wish I could grab the number for you right now, because I thought I saved it on my desktop. But I'm looking from yesterday. There's a Hordes article. It will be our cover story tomorrow, because we need to. It's going to be Friday, and maybe that's the best day to say, hey, here's our attrition rate. Here's the death toll of dairy producers in America since I think Hordes went back to 1992, and we can go further back than that. In 72, I mean, I've seen numbers. There were hundreds of thousands of dairies. Do we need hundreds of thousands? I don't know. But somebody wanted to milk cows. And it isn't because they all died and just said, hey, I'm tired of milking cows. And I can see that you might get tired of it, but most dairy producers, they love it. It's what they do. It's who they are. And so the only time I see them leaving is when they just finally, you know what, this ain't working. We allow ourselves to be priced out of the market. And we've allowed your supplies to kill you. You've allowed overproduction to kill you. You've allowed this Kool-Aid to be drunk and settled for margin protection insurance when you should have said, hell no. We ain't going to do that. We're going to use Capper-Volstat. We're going to sit in common. We're going to sit down in a room. We're going to name our floor price, and we're going to back it with our money. We're going to back it with our taking full responsibility for all of our milk production. If you want to overproduce, hey, knock yourself out, but you better be ready on the other end to take away those supplies, or you're going to get paid what you're getting paid for that milk right now. Well, there's our commentary. We've far exceeded your patience and time, but we're not going to stop beating this drum. There is a way forward. There is positive news. There's news every day, okay? but nobody talks too much about how we're going to go for it. They just want to, they just put this little crumb out there and, oh, here, feel better, 1.4%. We had a 14% decline last month, but we're up 1.4%, and oh my gosh, that's going to solve it all. Don't you feel better? Can you guys spend that? Can you taste the 1.4%? Nobody could. Nobody. But that's what most of the traditional media and the people within the industry are going to say to you. Guys, take charge. Be responsible. Name your price. You don't have to take this. You don't have to take it anymore. So we'll be here tomorrow morning. It'll be Friday, the 4th of March, 2016, 8:30 a.m. in the Pacific time zone. If you don't know how to get, I'm gonna put it on here, and I think Stuart does, but 712-432-0900. You can actually come in on the conference call every day. Your PIN number is 666-632-pound. So 3 6s, then 632-pound, and you could sit and listen live and hear me make all these mistakes. And we're okay with that. It's not a perfect science. But we're not going to cover up the fact that dairy producers are going broke, and it's being perpetuated by an industry which fully is set and poised and willing to take full advantage of dairy producers around the world and allow them to produce milk at below the cost of production until they go out of business. And then they say, well, you know what, maybe that's the right way to go. I've heard producers say it. Well, when he's gone, then you know what, I'll milk his cows, or there'll be less milk and things get better. Well, we're going to talk tomorrow about the fact that, guess what, it ain't got no better, guys. You've lost 80,000 dairymen in the United States alone, and you're losing them by the tens of thousands globally. And you know what? We're still getting below cost of production price for milk in 2016, the 21st century, and it's still going on. So we advocate there is a better way, a way forward. Visit our website at my-dairyman.com, my-dairyman.com. You have a lot to read there. You can listen to any one of these broadcasts, read what we've put up in the podcast today, last night. Make a choice. Do something. But don't do nothing. Don't stand in the middle of the road because you're going to get run over. It's just a fact. Well, thanks again. Everyone have a great Thursday. Be safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
To learn or hear more, please join us for our daily News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. It is broadcast live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can join the broadcast by calling 712-432-0900. Your conference PIN number is 666632-pound. Or you can listen to the recorded call by dialing 712-432-0990, using your same PIN number for personal access. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We truly believe you need to and can know more. Our job is to deliver more knowledge to dairy producers, believing that if knowledge is power, then applied knowledge is nuclear power. We'll see you on the call.